guys, my name is Victimology Adrigola, taking a Bachelor of Science in Criminology and a second-year student at Laguna State Polytechnic University, Lopez Satellite Campus. We are going to be talking about what I have learned on human behavior and victimology. We are just going to cover up chapter 1 to 6, and that would be the part of human behavior and victimology. Specifically, it was all about the development, human behavior, adjustment, abnormal behavior, deviant sexual behavior, and victimology. Before I start, let us go over the things that we aim to learn after this video. First, we are expected to gain better understanding on the concept of human behavior and the different factors might affect changes in human behavior, and also, it is expected upon finishing this video, we will be able to have a better understanding on how human personality develops over time, through experience, and so on. Because usually, human development is like a process wherein our human behavior and how we behave as a human being is being developed through learning and experience. And it is also expected after finishing this video, we used to be able to become familiar with the different causes, conflicts, and motivation affect the human behavior. Chapter 1. Chapter 1 is the development. So what is development? Development refers to a progressive series of changes of an orderly and coherent life leading toward maturity. Here are the significant factors about development. In early foundation, they say that it is critical because on the first 2 years of life, physical and emotional adjust to life as they grow. Maturation and learning play important role in development because maturation refers to the growth following the birth that is determined primarily by genetic factors and occurs more or less independently of learning. While in learning, it is development that comes from exercise and effort on the individual's part. It is also said that development follows a definite and predictable pattern because the importance of this is that it makes it possible to predict what people will do at a given age and to plan their education and training to fit into this pattern. All individuals are biologically and genetically different from the others. No two people can be expected to react in the same manner to the same environment stimuli. Each phase of development has characteristic pattern of behavior. We have the equilibrium. It is when individuals adapt easily to environmental demands. While in this equilibrium, it is when the individuals experience difficulties in adaptation makes for personal social adjustment. And we have also what we call developmental tasks during lifespan. Developmental task is a task which arises at or about a certain period in the life of the individual. Successful achievement of which leads to the happiness and to success with the later task, while failure leads to the unhappiness and difficulty with later tasks. We have the babyhood and early childhood, late childhood, puberty and adolescence, early adulthood, middle age, and the old age. And from that ages, we gain different lessons and tasks in our life. Last topic on our chapter 1 in development was the psychosexual stages of development. In this development, Freud believes that all human beings pass through a series of psychosexual stages. Each stage is dominated by the development and sensitivity in a particular erogenous or measure, giving spot in the body. If individuals are unsuccessful in resolving the conflict, their solving frustration becomes chronic and remains a central feature in their psychological makeup. We have the oral stage, we have the anal stage, the phallic stage, the latency stage, and the genital stage. Now, let's move to chapter 2, which is the human behavior. Human behavior, defined as the voluntary or involuntary attitude of a person, adapts in order to fit society's idea of right and wrong. It's partly determined by heredity and environment and modified through learning. It is also the way human beings act. What are the causations of human behavior? We have the sensation, perception, and the awareness. In human behavior, there are two basic types. One is the inherited behavior. It is a behavioral response or reflex exhibited by people due to their genetic endowment or the process of natural selection. The other one is learned behavior. It involves cognitive adaptation that enhances the human being's ability to cope with the changes in the environment in ways which improve the changes for service. In motivation of human behavior, we have the needs theory of human behavior, where on this theory states that throughout life, desires, wishes, and drives collectively called needs motivate all. When not fulfilled, these needs place the individuals under stress, and in order to relieve the tension created, one has to strive for appropriate satisfactions. These needs are arranged according to its hierarchy. Number 1 is the psychological needs. Number 2 is the safety needs. Number 3 is the sense of belonging and love needs. Number 4 is the esteem needs. And number 5 is the need for self-actualization. Also, under the motivation of human behavior, we have the psychodynamics of human motivation. Psychodynamics, which literally means motivation to action, define human behavior in terms of inner personality of the inner self, the concept of subjective life in the inner forces within called mental personality. The organization of total personality depends upon the adequate and harmonious functioning of these three dynamically interacting forces, the id, the ego, and the superego. There is also viewpoints in the study of human behavior. We have the neurological, the cognitive, the psychoanalytical, the behavioral, the humanistic, the heredity, the environment, and learning. There is also a characteristic of behavior. We have the primarily native of learned, we have the invoked by external stimuli or internal need, we have the automatic, voluntary, conscious, and motor or intentional. Kinds of human behavior. So what are those kinds we have? We have the overt or covert behavior, the conscious or unconscious behavior, the simple or complex behavior, the rational or irrational behavior, and the voluntary or involuntary behavior. As topic on Chapter 2 of Human Behavior was the personality dimensions that affect human behavior. We have the extroversion, neuroticism, and psychoticism. Now, let us move to Chapter 3, the adjustment. When we say adjustment, on the psychological point of view, can be defined simply as a process where the internal demands of motivations are brought into harmonious relation with the external demands of reality. As a means of adjustments, persons resorted to what is known as defense mechanism or adjustment mechanism. Defense mechanism or adjustment mechanism used to defend the ego. Unconscious strategies people use to anxiety by concealing the source from themselves and others. There are general principles of adjustment: the biological level, the psychological and interpersonal level, and the socio-cultural level. There are a lot of types of defense mechanism. We have the repression, the suppression, the denial, the displacement, the scapegoating, rationalization, projection, substitution or transferred compensation, reaction formation, avoidance mechanism, sublimation, and intellectualization. Now we are on Chapter 4, which it is the abnormal behavior. An abnormal behavior is a behavior that fails to meet the characteristic of a normal person. Types of abnormal behavior. Personality disorder. It originates during early development process leading to maladaptive behavior. We have the neurosis. Neurosis or psychoneurosis are behavioral disorder brought about by emotional tension resulting from frustration, conflicts, repression, or insecurity. Operational fatigue. Psychosis. Psychosis are serious mental illness where behavior is unpredictable. Antisocial personality. This is a mentally disturbed person who is opposed to the principles upon which society is based. Handling of different abnormal and deviant behavior. Now, let's proceed to Chapter 5, the deviant sexual behavior. First is, let us define sexuality. Sexuality is a behavior associated with relation between sexes and reproductive organ. Normal sexuality, sexual completion that leads to mature and adjusted individual capable of entering relationships with a member of the opposite sex which are physically and mentally stable and satisfying heterosexual. Abnormal sexuality or sexual deviancy. Sexual behavior which seeks stimulation and gratification by means other than heterosexual. We have the classification of sexual partners as to choice of sexual partner, instinctual sexual urge, mode of sexual expression, or way of sexual satisfaction, parts of the body, visual stimulus, and number, and other sexual deviants. Now, let us move to the last chapter of this video, the victimology. Victimology is a scientific study of physical, emotional, and financial harm people suffer because of illegal activities. Included in this definition is the victimization occurring for victims within the criminal justice system. So, when we say victimization, it is a symmetrical interpersonal relationship that is abusive, painful, destructive, parasitical, and unfair. In victimology, we have the victims. Victims is an individuals who experience loss, injury, or hardship for any reason. The crime victims. It is a vow as result of an illegal act. Direct and primarily victim. It is victim who experiences criminal acts and its consequences firsthand. Indirect or secondary victim, the family and those who suffer emotionally or financially but are not immediately involved or physically injured. We also have the studying of victimization, scientifically the subjective and objective approach. Subjective approach is the issues are approached from a standpoint of morality, ethics, philosophy, personalized reactions, and emotions. While objective approach, it requires observer to be fair, open-minded, even-handed, dispassionate, neutral, and unbiased. We also have the victim versus good guys. And there are three types of biases. Number one, it may arise from personal experience taking the form of individual preferences and prejudice. Number two, it derives from the history of the discipline itself, the pioneers. Pioneers in the study of victimology first introduced the concept of victim blaming. Number three is a subtle bias traced back to the mood of the times. That would be all, and thank you for watching this video.